know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it turnpike miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy Jan Ludis. Guys, I hope you know him because we put out some absolutely incredible messages. I give you Pierre Panopoulos, a co-host of Once a Week moving forward. But guys, if you check our recent messages, it leads directly into what we want to talk to you about today. Because every topic that we've done together has been a stepping stone to help you step into a higher level for yourself, to elevate you to a higher level for yourself. Now, if you've never heard that terminology, we're going to help you throughout this video figure that out. But today's topic, guys, is the entire concept of I don't know, which a lot of people are terrified to say to someone else. If you're asked a question, I don't know, because you don't know what is on the end of that question, the end of that answer. So today we want to help you understand that saying I don't know could be one of the best things you ever respond to someone with. We're going to touch on that. But guys, I give you Pierre Panopoulos. Pierre, once again, happy to be with you, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, this is always fun. And that I don't know topic is so interesting in society today because, again, everybody's afraid to say that they don't know something, right? And I think from our discussion today, we'll kind of uncover the fact that it really takes away from those small bits of life that I always talk about, those curiosities and those acceptances of what people know and don't know, and how ultimately it just leads to a more satisfied society where people actually feel heard and understood and accepted within the things that they know and don't know in this life.
For sure. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, guys, we're going to touch on a lot of things. I got to give him credit because he just got off of a plane. 6 a.m. you got off, got 3 hours of sleep, went directly to the gym so you can get that pump going for this video. But now you're here. So we're going to power through this thing so you can stay awake.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you being here for me.
Of course. Happy to be
here. Yeah. But this idea of I don't know, when I was driving in to film this video today, that came over me. And, whenever Peter and I sit down, we have some plan for our messages, but we kind of, in my perspective, let the Spirit lead, let the guidance kind of come in to where we should lead it. So in that entire concept, Peter, we're leading with, I don't know what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
But when we get together, the conversation begins and we kind of let it lead us to where we're meant to be for that matter.
Yeah, I think we are on this similar page in a lot of the ways that we think and understand and all of that stuff. And it's nice to just kind of poke at the overall idea of consciousness and just say, all right, well, what is it that is kind of coming through today? And what can we elaborate upon? Because again, like Billy said before, it's this umbrella idea of elevating, of growing through pain, of growing through anything at all, through, whatever the case may be. And, there's infinitely many topics that we can cover.
Oh yeah.
And so
sure.
it's nice to just kind of pop in this and say, like, just get it started and see where it goes.
No, exactly. And in that realm, I don't know. To me, it was always taught, not from a parent, probably on more of a spiritual journey, that if I say I don't know to someone, it's a beautiful thing. Because what that means is the next answer, the next thing that comes through is in fact going to help me learn. Because saying I don't know means teach me something, show me. So when we live in a feeling tone, for that matter, of I don't know, we're telling God, we're telling the universe, show me. I want to learn something new. But if we live with that fear of telling someone I don't know, of living in, I don't know where this is going to go, I'm just going to stay where I'm at, we're blocking something new from coming into our life. We're blocking a blessing from coming into our life. So Peter, with this ability to say I don't know, touch on it. Because it involves surrender, but in all of your experiences in your world travels, I know you've been lost numerous times. You've had to ask for help from numerous people. Touch on that a little bit, how this concept of I don't know shows up in your own life.
I mean, listen, growing up, both of us being Greek, we know that, sometimes older Greek people tend to think they know everything, and they refuse to say I don't know something. And so I think that's definitely where it all has started. But specifically on the trip, something that really kind of brought that feeling back to me was anytime I would get lost, and started in Mexico, and I'd say, "Hey, where is this thing?" And no matter what, everybody would have such an instantaneous answer for me. And in the beginning, I was like, "Wow, they really know what they're taught. They really know where they are right now. That's pretty amazing." And I would take their directions and be like farther away from what I was looking for. And so what I started to realize is these people, and listen, I have nothing against it. Mexicans are very proud people, just like Greeks. But I realized that it was kind of to a fault, because, you are unwilling to be like, I don't know, you might want to ask somebody else that is maybe more local or has been here longer. And so what I realized I had to start doing was ask one person, and then honestly stop 100 meters down the road and ask 2, 3, 4 more people until I can really try to hone in on exactly what they were trying to tell me, right? And that was such an interesting experience because, again, it's this idea of being afraid to show someone else a weakness of ours.
Exactly.
It's not necessarily a weakness. It's just an idea of I don't know. It's okay. That idea of I don't know sparks conversation further. It sparks, maybe not for directions. Directions, you're just like, all right, well, sorry, you're going to have to figure it out elsewhere. But in life, it's this, I don't know, man. Like, let's try to figure this out together. I wonder about this or that. Or, what's your perspective on this? It just sparks a new conversation, and it grows those empty spaces within life that are actually the true meaning of life. It's those small little things that we always talk about.
Right.
And, for me, that's kind of the piece here is that, again, it's just grow that curiosity through the lack of fear of what other people are going to think about you in anything in your life. But, especially with these I don't knows.
Yeah. And you touch on a few different topics I want us to address. And the first is the pride aspect. Yes, I agree with you. Greeks 100%, if not all of us, are completely prideful. That's just the culture. And that's something I've grown in myself to step away from. And spirituality and faith allow me to step away from that. But the concept of pride is directly related to the ego. And so why I want to bring that up to you guys now is if you're living life with your ego on such a grander stage, we'll say, that leads to pride, that leads to being a know-it-all. And when you think of yourself as a know-it-all, you do not want to see what happens when you don't know something. When someone asks you a question, it could be a little kid, asks you a question and it stumps you, and you have to make up an answer because you're afraid to say, I don't know, because your image in your own mind of what that person sees of you will be shifted. And if our ego is so big, we'll say, it then causes us to then, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? I can't let people see the true me. And when we live with our ego at such a grander level, we then are so fearful of letting people see the true us. But being able to say, I don't know, allows you to open up and allow someone else to teach you something about themselves, about the world, about you, that allows your true self to then elevate and grow to a higher level.
You can't learn from a full cup. And you can't learn from a perceived full cup. And that's just something that is super important for anybody to understand. And that ego piece that you're talking about is spot on, in my opinion, because it fills the cup past where it should be full, right? And it doesn't allow for new information to come in because you feel as though you know it. If you say to somebody, hey, I just found out about this, and they're like, yeah, I read that. It's like, okay, cool. Where are we going to take this, right? Like, okay, let's try something else to talk about now because that one's kind of over, right? But another example that just kind of came to mind is, going to Greece every year, growing up, and still to this day, I consider myself quite fluent in Greek, and yet there are things within conversations in Greece where I simply don't know what they're saying, and it's so interesting to see the progression within the close group of friends and family that I have over there from the very beginning, where it was like they'd say something to me and I'd say, well, what does this mean? and they kind of look at me like, "Oh, you don't know what that means?" And from even from back then, I was never taken aback by that, because it's always my curiosity that wants me to. I just want to learn more. I
Yeah.
just and my willingness to surrender to the fact that I don't understand it is the piece that allows me to absorb the information in a much better way.
Yeah.
But the evolution of it with these groups of friends and family and all of that, it went from that to now. You really see people excited about the fact that I don't know, and that I am sharing the fact that I don't know with them, because they have to now think, how am I going to explain this to him in a different way so that he can actually get this, so
Yeah.
that we can continue this conversation,
For sure.
so that we don't have to stop it because he doesn't know what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? So the evolution of your ability, whoever's listening, to be able to surrender to the fact of, I don't know, see the other people around you's reaction, and then see how that reaction ends up evolving. Because the more you're able to surrender to that fact of yourself not knowing that one thing, allows those small bits of life to grow and evolve in a better way through the forms of communication that you have with the people around you.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing to see.
Oh, for sure.
Because again, it adds to the quality of the relationship.
Yeah. Right. And you're weaving together a great piece here, because the teaching moment of someone telling you, I don't know, please teach me, or you having the confidence of someone, I don't know, and you being taught. You're constantly working with schools. I get to come in and talk to schools. I've worked with students and whatnot of all different ages, and it's a beautiful thing. But do you think in this day and age, and if you're a parent right now listening, you might be able to agree with this. I think the school systems have changed so much based off what we always talk about. If you've checked out our other messages, we've talked about how curriculum is being pushed at such a high rate that kids don't have the ability to connect with their teachers. But kids nowadays are fearful of telling their teacher they don't know something because of the repercussion that comes, or the giant F that comes on the paper or something like that. And back in the day, that was me. I was terrified of getting a bad grade. One, because all the thoughts came in like, oh my goodness, I'm not as good as the other kids. Oh my goodness, my parents are going to yell at me because I got a bad grade. I'm not doing as well as everyone else. Whatever the fear was. But do you think teachers have the ability to spend as much time as they can when a kid tells them I don't know? Because I've seen kids get passed through the system at certain school systems. They have to get passed through because we're just not going to give them the time.
I think there's definitely a balance, and I agree to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say within the system as a whole, there's teachers who are super passionate about it,
For sure.
and take their time to actually. Again, I mentioned in another podcast, 50% of my job as a middle school teacher back in the day was this social emotional aspect.
For
This
sure.
idea of showing kids it's okay to whatever, it's okay. And in this case, it's okay not to know something, right? And it's okay. And that was something that I really focused on, because again, as I told the kids, I'm not just your math teacher. I'm here to help you be a better human.
Perfect.
And so, yes, there are teachers that can do that, and do so skillfully within the very strict time constraints that they have from the curriculum and from the schools and all of that. And then there's teachers who don't really necessarily have the desire to do it anymore. And so I can definitely see, that piece as well. But yeah, I mean, the system as a whole is definitely kind of squeezing down on exactly what you're talking about, right?
Sure.
And again, when you have a class of 30 kids, it could be hard for anybody to stop every single time it happens, because again, if it wasn't for the fact that by the end of 7th grade, we have to get every single one of these pieces done, and anything that doesn't get done gets transferred over to the 8th grade, that's a big stress, but it's something that's there, right? And everybody does what they can in terms of that. And it can, and again, the system is meant for the masses. The system is meant to try its best to get everybody through. But exactly what you're saying is that a lot of those I don't knows and a lot of those social emotional aspects, unfortunately, can't be touched upon for every single student because the classes are just too big.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good point to bring up, because again, it's very difficult. I give props to any teachers and anybody within the school systems at this point, because it is becoming more and more strict time wise, and what's the word I'm looking for? Process wise and everything,
Yeah.
right? And so, I mean, with your clients, Billy, is there a specific example that comes to mind when it comes to these I don't know moments when somebody, you'll be talking to somebody and maybe you're just getting to know them and maybe they are embarrassed to say I don't know or something like that. I mean, does any event kind of pop into your head when it comes to any of the clients that you've worked with
Oh yeah.
about this I don't know stuff?
Oh yeah, it happens. It happens periodically, and I love when it happens periodically, because in coming to work with a coach, in coming to work with someone who's meant to help you better yourself, there better be some I don't knows. There better be about a lot about the self improvement process that you don't know that you can learn and apply to yourself. That's the beauty of when a coaching client comes to me or someone that wants to become a coaching client. I can step into the process and like, hey, let's bridge the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. The reason why you're coming to work in a coaching setting is because you don't know where that bridge is or what you can do to get there. So when I have clients of all different ages ask me certain questions, or I ask them certain questions, I make sure it starts out in a rapport building process, but then you see the notch go up with questions I ask. And a recent client, great kid, intelligent as ever, younger kid, 17 years old or so, and the whole topic became belief systems because he's been through a lot in his life. I'm going to stick to privacy on that, but he's been through so much pain in his life at such a young age. I asked him, hey, how do you define yourself? Like, who is you? Who is that? What comes to mind? And that's a massive question to ask anyone, not just someone 17 years old. That could be you right now, whatever age you're at. Who are you? And to why I ask those questions is because it makes your brain think differently. If I ask someone, hey, who are you? Define yourself to me. You don't hear that on a regular basis. You don't have the answer already here. So the response is usually, I don't know. And I sit there, and most people, as we start for this video, is fearful of saying that. My next response completely changes their perspective. If someone tells me, I don't know, I'll go, phenomenal. Let's learn who that is. Let's learn who you want to be. And, deeper conversation leads, the client I was mentioning, has been through his pain. He describes himself as a survivor. And, a lot of people might look at that as strength, which I hope you do, because if you define yourself as a survivor, that means you have the strength to make it through some of the toughest moments. For a young kid to say they're a survivor, it has its pros, but it has its cons. And so we identify the pros of that. Oh, all right, you have so much strength to build on. You have an ability to resiliency to keep moving forward when times get tough. That's phenomenal. I hope every single person in the world has those character traits. But if you're not looking at those, how are you defining yourself as a survivor? And he described himself as a survivor because all the pain he's went through, because he's just trying to get by in every setting. That's what defined him as a survivor. I'm just trying to get by. Like, all right, go deeper. Well, he's just going on how he doesn't have many friends. He's just going on about how he's just trying to get by in his classes and pass. He's just trying to get by at work. He's just trying to get by until he can graduate high school, graduate college and everything. And so when we're talking about that, it's defining the goal of, all right, if you're in high school, you have another 6 years or so until you're done being a survivor. Well, all right, well, let's erase that definition of your belief of who you are and let's change it. Who do you want to be? And so in asking that question, well, I don't know. I've never been asked who I want to be. I've just been kind of told where to go in life. And it's these deeper questions that I want people to respond with, I don't know, too, because it allows them to then brainstorm and think and imagine. Imagination is the greatest gift we have. It's not just a child's ability to, oh, that's my friend over there sitting on the couch. It's that over there. It's your imagination and your vision guide you to where you're meant to be in life. But if we drown that out with fear of I don't knows, you're not allowing the muscle of imagination to show you where you're meant to lead. So to answer your entire question that roundabout way, Peter, is yeah, I see it pop up all the time and I love it. And I try and make my clients love it as well because it is the learning process.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to step into a coaching setting, you're telling yourself, I don't know how to get to the next level. I need someone to help me. And so when we work together, I want us to address those I don't know so we can find the answers, because the answers is your ability to walk up the staircase to whatever level you're trying to elevate to in yourself, but in life as well.
I think that's amazing. I mean, having it just the feeling and thought that kind of came to mind with all of this is this idea of fear being the sort of darkness for anybody, and the ability to bring light and excitement into that darkness to kind of break that fear away and say, great, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know, what it is that you're looking for, let's go and dive in and figure it out. And it kind of breaks that fear a little bit. It breaks the structure of that fear because, again, they're feeling heard and accepted and understood in the moment that they're at. And then they start to feel within themselves that, all right, they start to build that growth mindset that we talk about and that we know so well. And that's a beautiful piece to offer to someone. And I saw some picture. It was with a saint. It was basically like if say in Greek it's doxa si Kyrie, it's like thank you God for anything that comes, right? But what it was saying was saying it in the darkest points of experiences or life, and let's kind of point that to fear, is better than saying it 1,000 times when things are light and happy, right? And that is something that is very important when you're listening to somebody, is to be able to see that part of them that is adverse or that they're feeling that adversity in. And then bringing that light in there and kind of breaking it from within and showing them like, hey, here's a hand, let me help you up and let's start going this way. Yeah. And let's start figuring this out together. Right. The majority of people in society today feel alone and lost because, yes, they have community around them, but as we've talked about before, the community around has been so beaten down and just kind of maintained that, kind of, I have to do this every day and then I die and that's kind of it. And, so this is kind of what we're talking about here, is just this bringing this light into these pieces of fear or anxiety or anything and opening them up. Yep. Right. And just helping anybody that you can. Exactly. And ultimately helping yourself realize that it's so much better when you actually do that.
Yeah. Right. And, on this deeper topic of, I don't know, but also the consciousness aspect, that's kind of the umbrella to this. I have found that when I ask myself the deeper questions, that I might, in the immediate moment of asking a question, I don't have the answer. But when you ask the deep question on yourself of, how can I get through this? What can I do right now to help me feel something better than how I feel right now? I've done so many messages in the past. I bring it to so many audiences, schools, companies, everything like that. Everything comes down to the questions you ask yourself. And every single thought you have is a question that you are, in fact, asking yourself. So if we change up the questions that we're asking ourselves, even if at first we thought there was an I don't know, you're opening yourself up to a higher level, your higher self, a higher consciousness to fill you with the answer. So if I ask the question of how can I feel better right now? How can I feel some sort of joy right now? It's the example I always use, because a lot of people find themselves living in a lower emotional state, whether depression, stress, anxiety, anger, whatever it might be. But if you ask the question of how can I feel joy right now, that's a higher level emotion. You have to elevate and rise up. At first, you might have thought the I don't know was there because the questions you were asking yourself were in tune with the lower level emotion you've been sitting at, your normal state. Well, let's rise up the ladder. I know this is deep emotional concepts and whatnot, but this is the states we live in on a daily basis. To ask the question, how can I live in a better state? How can I live in a joyful state? Your brain is a supercomputer. It has to give you an answer. It's the beauty of how powerful your mind is. It's a tool. But to direct that tool into a higher level for yourself allows you then to answer your own I don't know questions, or God to answer those I don't know questions, or the universe to bring in those I don't know answers. And it allows you to see life from a higher standpoint, which is the whole process of consciousness and elevating yourself to a higher level.
Yeah. Taking, and even if it's not an immediate answer, it's the surrender to the fact that answer is coming because I have put it out there and asked for
exactly.
it. Right. And yes, a lot of the times we hear that that inner voice say the answer to us, and yet we don't really listen to it. We're like, nah, that's not it. And then as time goes by, it could be 2, 10 years, whatever the case may be, and you look back and you're like, man, I had it back then, but I didn't listen to myself because of the fear that I had about whatever the case may have been, right? And so again, it's this practice of, listening to yourself more and more. If you feel as though you don't know the answer in that moment, you are ultimately evolving yourself to the point of getting that answer. You are creating the person and the consciousness and the understanding that is going to actually be able to accept that answer.
Right.
And so that growth within itself is a pretty amazing one.
For sure. And that's what we're here.
Yeah.
That self-growth process. And I love talking about that. You guys know here on Once a Week, that's the bread and butter to everything. But it's until you step into the process of your own self-growth, you start to find out who you really are. You can step away from the I don't know answers or the fear of the I don't know, and then live in a state of wonder. Live in a state of I'm figuring out the answers. Live in a state of I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow. And a lot of us, we want life to be so certain. I wrote a little bit of a chapter of a book I'm writing, and I had to talk about this concept of certainty. And so many of us are afraid of newness. And we say we want the new house. We say we want the new job. We say we want the new relationship. We say we want the new of whatever it might be for yourself. But then we're afraid to do anything different to allow the new to come in. So we want life to be so certain that we know what's around every single corner, that we don't have to worry about a thing in the world. Understandable so, but that's fear leading the way at a certain standpoint. It's good to have certainty in life, security in certain standpoints, but too much certainty creates so much boredom in your life. You need newness to come in and shake things up. So that's why it's fun to talk to clients and audiences, because the newness that your life could have needed could be the pain that you've experienced that needed to shake things up so you can see life from a different perspective that's allowing you to rise up or walk through the door to the blessing you've been praying for, that you've been asking for, that the new that you keep asking for, but because you're unwilling to shake the routine or pattern, you want things to be so structured, and until you allow uncertainty to have its way and that flow of certainty and uncertainty, what you're saying is, I need something to come in and change this because I'm unwilling to change it myself. And when you open yourself up to that, the I don't know is flow in for sure, but the newness of life also flows in to where I don't have to be afraid of what's on the other side of this question of telling someone I don't know, because it always shows up to be exactly what I needed because it helped me grow in that moment.
I've always said this, and it's obviously not 100%, a solid thing, but for me, growing up with an immigrant parent, for me, I've always said life is for the immigrants, because immigrants go to a new land, an unknown, and they are just so hell bent on figuring it out, and that curiosity and the I don't know leads to and sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, and that's where a lot of the prideful things come in with people in general, right? But specifically the Greeks, it's this idea of, well, I'm gonna show this force and I'm gonna figure it out while I am showing that force. But I've said it because for anybody who is immigrated anywhere, that person is very, very head down, gonna figure this out, gonna create something new. They are constantly absorbing new information from around them because everything is so new. I mean, even on my travels, you are constantly in a state of hyper focus with everything around you because you are seeing a whole different way of life.
Yeah.
And you're trying to absorb it so that you can better understand what it is that's going on around you. Right? And then, the children of immigrants, they really see that in their parents, and they say, wow, this is what it is. And unfortunately, not all the time, this is why I'm saying it's not 100% solid, but a lot of the time, 3-4 generations go by, And then everybody becomes this, everything needs to be solid and full all the time. And I need to know what's going around every corner, like you were just talking about before.
Right.
And it's this, and again, this practice that I always think about is just always try to be curious and willing to not understand.
Yeah.
And just learn and just observe and just take a step back and just watch the things around you and ask questions.
Yeah.
Don't come into it with a full cup. Anything in life, don't come into it with a full cup saying, I know this and this and that. Always come into it from this perspective of, what can I take away from this?
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about the last one that we did, that second video, when I was asking you your questions about your life and your journey, which if anyone hasn't seen that one, definitely go check it out. Because me personally, like, I've known you a couple of years, and talking at the gym and hanging out and just having these types of conversations, I still didn't understand everything about it, about you, about your journey. And it was so cool to listen to and ask more questions. And as I've mentioned before, I mean, within conversations in general, it's definitely something that I need to focus on as well, is asking more questions and trying to understand things in a better way. And that's exactly what was going on that last one. And it felt really good for me. And I'm sure it did for you as well. And it was so cool to hear your story in like a 1-bit section, and I learned so much about you, and it was very, very cool to do. And nobody's perfect. We say this all the time. Neither of us are perfect. I'm happy to share the things that I'm imperfect about, because it forces me to actually change them. It forces me to really focus upon them and say, yeah, no, this is what I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
And to see such a reward from working on that with that last video that we did. I mean, that's why we're doing this.
Yeah. Right.
It's cool to see. It's cool for others to observe, and it's fun.
Oh, it's a blast, right? And I said this in the last video. Us talking and creating these videos is creating a collective consciousness that allows us to learn, that allows you to absorb something from it, from whatever level you might be at. And the last video, that's exactly what it was. And guys, go check it out, because I loved it, because Peter led the way with everything, and he just felt this calling that we had to. So we filmed one video that was going to get posted, finished it, and Peter goes, hey, how much time we got? Because he felt it in his core. He felt it on his heart. We have to do another one. And says, all right, man, lead the way. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. And the entire process was these questions he's talking about on my story, on my life, and how all this weaved together to what we have now. So if you're coming into once a week and you have seen recent videos, but you've never learned the story behind it, essentially speaking, that last message with Peter, it's probably about 2 weeks ago at this point. It's called Billy G's Story. It's an hour of just figuring out everything and weaving all this story together to where I am now. But there's so much learning there for a listener, but for myself as well. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to go back and see areas where you struggled that you came out of. It's beautiful to, as you just mentioned, areas where you aren't perfect.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as perfect. The perfectionism is deadly in this world. But to be able to look back at your past flaws and realize, like, oh my goodness, I'm not that person anymore. All that came from a state of a massive I don't know.
Yeah.
Where in my story, everything fell apart to where I felt I had to try to figure my life out, not pick the pieces up and try and cram them back together, but to leave them there and venture off into something new in so many different areas. But to do that is stepping into the I don't know of, I call it faith, trusting, like, hey, I'm going to take one step at a time, and this is the calling on my heart. I'm going to follow it until I get there, and then I'm going to keep going. That might be you in the state right now, or a state you've been at, or maybe, as Pierre just said, that could be something that happened years ago, and you never really listened to that voice telling you where to go, but it's peeking its head around the corner. Hey, you ready yet? Hey, you ready yet? And when you start to listen to it, life starts to get incredible, because it's leading you to something more. And that will bring in moments of joy. That will bring moments of wonder. that will bring in moments where you have to face your fears, and fear is going to bubble up inside you. It's like, I don't know what to do. And then you step forward either way, step of faith. And then that allows you to realize, like, oh my goodness, I just conquered this. What else can I conquer? What part of myself do I need to heal and grow in to become this next great version of myself? And then when you step into that entire process, oh my goodness, does life get good? And it's incredible. Yeah.
The more that you do it, the more that you accept the unknowns, the more that you surrender to things, it gets to the point where you you start to live more so in the present because you don't feel as though you know the future, and
Yeah.
you really start to feel anything that may come up, and you're just like, I don't know, because you start to, for me at least, it's like I start to try to, or in the past, I've tried to analyze things to such a degree
Yep.
that is just unhealthy.
Mm.
Trying to really, and yeah, you're trying to get everything, you're trying to squeeze every piece of information out of that one thing. But it can be exhausting.
Oh yeah.
And eventually you get to the point and you're just like, that happened. Instead of trying to hyperanalyze and let everything else go to the wayside and hyperanalyze that one thing, you're just like, you know what, this will unfold as it's supposed to, as I continue to live the other parts of my life, and I surrender to the fact that I don't know it.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that.
Yep.
And I look forward to bits of that information coming through when they're supposed to, instead of me dropping everything else and trying to focus on squeezing every last drop of information out of this one thing.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just letting things roll, and ultimately we don't know anything about this life.
Yeah. Right.
We know nothing about this life.
It's
I'm
true.
talking about us.
Yep.
I'm talking about every person that is living right now.
Yep.
We know such a drop of what really is this
It's
life,
true. Yeah.
right? And we can speculate, and we can philosophize like the good Greeks we are, and and we can do all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, we don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Nobody knows.
Yep.
And if you enjoy life from that perspective, and you say like, yeah,
Yep.
let's see,
Exactly.
let's figure it out, let's find out,
Yep.
and let's go and do it. Let's go and do that thing. Let's go and pursue that thing to be able to get some kind of answers and clarity.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. No, and that's living life in wonder, where let's just find out.
Yeah.
And that's how we're supposed to live. And I agree with you tenfold. No one knows whatsoever the meaning behind life, why we're here, what to do. And that's why I love talking to people about their perspective, because your self, capital S on that, yourself has a different perspective on this life and in this world than I do. Your experiences are yours, your pains, your loves, your traumas, your incredible family moments, friend moments, your experiences, whatever it is, are tailored to you. For me to come to you and say, like, hey, show me. And you don't have to pull out a picture on your phone, you have to pull out a video, whatever it is. Let's talk about it. Because it allows me to see the world through your lens, which teaches me something new that I didn't know before. And that could be in the realm of anything. That could be in the realm of the gym. That could be the realm of world travel. That could be the realm of spirituality and religiosity. That could be in the realm of reading. Whatever it is under the sun, you have a perspective on this life and this world. And if you think that that's the only perspective, you're robbing yourself of the newness and the wonder that is meant to be our experience as we find our way throughout this world and into the next life. But that's the beauty of life. Let's find out together and work together. I think in this day and age, just to kind of put a period on that concept, is this day and age, we're kind of training people to not socialize.
Yeah.
That's the tough part. We see it in school systems. I see it in adults now just as much. And there's a lot of fear and worry and anxiety on talking to the person next to you. And, I understand people's sides of that and everything. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is robbing yourself of learning something new and seeing the world a different way, or someone else learning to see the world a different way through what you bring to the table. We got to step into that in confidence.
We do, and slowly again, we always point these back to specific pieces that we always talk about, and I think it's important because we always hit these ideas from different angles, and it all kind of comes together. And this is just another one of those things where it's when you are practicing the act of surrender towards the things that you do not know, releasing the fear that you have about what other people around you are going to say about the fact that you don't know something. You start to grow a light within that darkness that I talked about before, and that's the candlelight that we continue to spread.
Yeah.
That's the candlelight that every single person takes, and once they form it within themselves, they start to spread it to the people around them. Change does not come from the outside. There are important times in history where you need to kind of step up as a group and do certain things to make significant changes. But at the end of the day, all of the change that really stays and matters is the internal change, and the simple act of alchemizing yourself to be able to change. You don't even have to explain it to people. People just see it. People just feel it.
Yep.
And then they say, well, that's a possibility now. I see that in the group that I have around me, whoever that person may be, you're there and you can feel it.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, that's a possibility. And now maybe I can go in that direction.
Yeah.
And that's so important for anybody to understand and keep in mind.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I think that's a great way to end this topic. But one final build on what you said, the darkness, and we become a light in the darkness, essentially. It was explained to me literally on the drive in here. I was listening to Michael Beckwith interviewing Kyle Cease, he's a comedian. I say former comedian because he's become a spiritual teacher. He travels and teaches on this because he felt he was being called to do that. And it's these deeper concepts that Peter and I are talking about right now with consciousness and everything. And the topic of darkness got brought up, and they both explained people get define darkness as these terrible things, when in reality, darkness is just unknown. It's the unknowingness, and the unknown is what people are afraid of. But until you can bring the light to the darkness and start to know what was going on there, you're not afraid of it anymore. You get to experience. Yeah. That's incredible. But no, guys, this entire topic, and I know we kind of just packed all that in, but I kind of want to close it out to allow you guys time to really, really, really sit on this and step into the I don't know for yourself. We talked about what that is, but we talked about surrendering, being able to surrender the I don't know, but surrendering your pride, surrendering what your ego might be saying and holding you back. We got to let go and allow life to happen. And certain different topics we went over where that can be tough for people at first, but until you step into your own self-improvement process, which is that surrendering and letting go, you really start to find out who you are, and it's time to do that. So, Peter, is there any lasting topics you want to close this, a lasting message you want to close this with before we kind of put a bow on it, I should say? I think you ended on a good period before.
This idea of if we are to start to take a step back and observe where society has led us as individuals and as groups, and we start to see the pieces of that darkness that we've talked about today, and where we can put that light into that darkness, that is one of the most important things that we can do. And the only way that we can add light to that darkness is by stepping away, observing, altering the things within us, our thought processes, our environments, our anything that may be internal, and really allowing it to change and surrendering to that fact. Having it from the standpoint of the I don't know, and just watch how things change within you, and then ultimately watch how things change around you, and then watch how the people around you change as well. Just from that act of surrender and growth mindset, and bringing lightness into dark.
Yeah. Oh, that's phenomenal. And that's the perfect end to this, where step into it, guys. You know, everything Peter just says is so perfect because it's your own process. It's your own ability to your own self improvement. As you said, growth mindset, the surrender, allowing life to happen. That's why we wanted to bring you today's message. Because in the grand scheme of things, it's elevating you to a higher level of yourself. It's elevating you to a higher level of consciousness, which allows you to see life from a higher level, a higher vantage point, which at that point, a lot of the pain start to fade away. A lot of the stress fades away. A lot of the worry, a lot of trauma fades away because you start to see things from, oh, I get it now. I had to go through that. I had to learn through that to get to where I am now. But then it gives you your power back to where you can start to define who you are in a great way. And it's never a lasting definition because you're always evolving. You're always growing. You know, I sit there and I read books about, I've read books about evolution and how that concept, and it stems from Darwin and everything like that. And I always looked at it where it's like, he's studying animals for evolution, but if you study the mind, we're always evolving. You know, everything's always evolving. It's not to say that that steps away from different perspectives of the world, but it's just what we know is evolution in the world is more of a physical standpoint. When you're always growing yourself, you're always evolving to something new. And it stems from the I don't know. It stems from the surrenders. It stems from you elevating your consciousness. So guys, everything we said, as I started this video, every topic Peter and I have done, you can find the videos on YouTube. We have an archive ready to come at you. We filmed a lot already, but every topic that we have done together has been with the goal of helping you step into a higher level of yourself. So take the knowledge in today's message and step forward. We're not telling you have to surrender your entire life and let everything go or whatever it is, but nothing happens unless you take a baby step forward. And that's the beauty of it. And, you know, how I describe my coaching clients and everything is let's bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You can do that on your own by taking a baby step forward. So take a concept we discussed today. It doesn't have to be the entire thing, however long this video's gone, but it doesn't have to be every single thing, but take a 10-minute chunk of this message and see how you can apply it to your life. Whether it's certainty and stepping into a little bit more of uncertainty, whether it's surrendering or letting go, or really kind of living in the confidence of I don't know so you can learn something new. Entire life is trying to help you move forward into yourself. Let's grow into that person. But Peter, tell them where they can find you, brother, while we close out.
Travelingteacher.com. Instagram's at a traveling teacher. If you want to find more about my motorcycle journey, then it's at peter.panopoulos1. Really like tying in pieces of the motorcycle journey because it was such a fascinating time of my life, and it's such a microcosm for life in general. So I appreciate the opportunities to bring those stories up at times, and thanks for joining.
For sure. Guys, go check out his motorcycle journey. And in recent videos, we've touched on pieces of that, but it gives you more visuals to what we're talking about for that matter and the story behind it. That's why having Peter on brings on a whole different perspective, because you might not be a world traveler. You might not have experienced these. Heck, your life was on the line every once in a while, but like your life may not have been on the line, but you get to see the perspective on what it taught him on a deeper level. So guys, go check that out. And if you guys are in need of a tutor for a student, you might be a parent, you might be a teacher needing help with your students in whatever way, go to Traveling Teacher, guys, and you're going to see the link in the credits. You're going to see it in the YouTube description. What Peter has created has helped so many students across the country. Kids across the country right now, and he's provided just that extra step that so many students need now more than ever in every subject. Doesn't have to say, oh, is he a math teacher? I know he is. Do they have English teachers? I know they do. Every single subject, guys, they're bringing to you the help that you need and that your students need to make sure they're getting the grades, they're passing. But as we touched on before, they're learning a deeper level of themselves so they do not have to live in the fear, the stress, the worry, the anxiety that comes with the school system today, because we're trying to change that. Why not? And if your student needs that, reach out to a traveling teacher. But guys, I thank you so much for tuning in. Please like this message on YouTube and hit that thumbs up on below, because as that number goes up, YouTube then takes it and spreads it across the board to more people. And if this topic helped you, please like it so you can help someone else out. Also, you can lend a hand in that just as much by sharing it to someone new. If anything, any topic we discussed today, someone popped in your mind, as I always tell you, there's a clear-cut sign that that person needs to hear this one topic. That's a sign to you to lend a hand and share it to them. not to tell them about Billy G, not to tell them about Peter, not to tell them about a traveling teacher, but to truly help them in their life and where they're leading. Please share it to them and subscribe to Once a Week if you have not already, because we just broke 10,000. We broke 10,000 the other day, 10,000 subscribers. That is skyrocketing compared to where we started this entire thing at. But guys, it's incredible to see. Make sure you're a part of it. You know exactly when a new video posts. And if you're in need of a coach or a speaker, someone who can come in and help you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be, to help answer those I don't know questions together and walk this path with you to make sure you are achieving these goals you have for yourself, please go to BillyGLifeCoaching.com. You can set up a free call with me. We're going to talk about it. We're going to work on it, and we can set something up for you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Peter, thanks again, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it back there. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Buku signing on, John to the Hancock.